TXTOmedia presents Turn ST4 content into videos. Presented by Wouter Maagdenberg.
Well, I think we can start. Welcome everybody. Hopefully everybody knows that this session will be in English, right? Okay, cool. I do understand German though, so if you have questions, the only thing is presenting in German for me is, I always start to hustle it with English words, so it doesn't get any better. So I stick to my English if you don't mind. My name is Wouter Maagdenberg. I work for a company called TXTOmedia. And today I'm going to talk about video, and mostly about how you can actually create video at scale and based on your existing documentation for many reasons. And I like also to have a conversation with you. It's not a big group, so we can also, you can, if you have a question, just raise your hand also in the middle of me talking. I think we have enough time. So that's all what it's all about. And the reason we talk video is this. I know that everybody here in the room and at events like this work pretty hard to write a lot of content, and sometimes also to add a lot of effort into creating illustrations to go with it, to make, of course, the instructions as clear as possible. But our brain mainly loves those images. It makes a lot clear to us. We understand things better when we see it, even better if we practice it, of course. But also, we remember it better if it's a picture. So, that said, the reason that we started TXTOmedia to help companies create more and more instructional videos for video-based instructions, obviously, but also for video-based learning is exactly this. A lot of research showed that when you see something and when you practice it, obviously, that you understand and remember that information better than when you just read it. So that's the reason. From a business perspective, it's quite a hassle, let's be honest. If we create a video, we have to update that video, we have to localize that video, and in the meantime, the technical documentation team is already updating the documents so that video is no longer in sync. We might recognize these kinds of circumstances. So introducing video in the TechCom space, in the training space, also creates a lot of hassle and cost and time to market and stuff like that. And that was exactly the reason why we thought, okay, what can we now do? What can we bring to these departments in, well, often technical environments or in large companies to shorten the time to market of creating video, to bring the cost down and actually to take all the hassle away as much as possible. It will still be video, but how can we do it in a more effective way based on time and money and well, in short, in resources. So that's actually the starting point of why we started to develop this technology one day. And this is actually what we did. So our starting point is that component content management system. The structured content, the modules you already have, the topics, the procedures, do this, do that, text, images, metadata, well, maybe in one language or in multiple languages. And it would be nice that you can use that existing content not only to bring it to print or to save it as a PDF or nowadays, of course, also to HTML, but it would be nice if that same single source could also be used, of course, to create videos with. Well, that's exactly what we will talk about. And that's called, in our case, the Video Creation Cloud. It's a cloud-based system because of rendering of video. So it's an online environment which you can connect or use standalone, but in this case, for large scale, you typically connect APIs with each other. So topics from Schema ST4 arrive on that platform, and from there on, we will turn it into videos. And I will show you some ways, because there are many formats and forms, of course, of video. And at the end of the day, those videos, well, can go to channels like YouTube. We work, for instance, for a company called HP. HP support on YouTube. All these videos in all these languages, for instance, come out of these systems. But you can also leverage them more for the, let's say, business-to-business content and maintenance and training or servicing in, for instance, learning management systems or your own support portals. And at the end of the day, this platform now delivers you not that PDF, but let's say that MP4 with metadata and subtitles and stuff, but MP4 is the output here mostly. So this is how it looks like. So from SD4, you export a topic, and in video terms, a topic is called a production. And within the production, you make one or more video titles. And the title or titles can happen because of language, because of versioning, because of all kinds of variables in titles. Maybe that product has another name in a certain market and in another market, for instance. So that's all grouped in what we call a production. And this is more or less what happens. So if you open it up, you first of all see that there is a new topic, but you also see that it is associated with, in this case, 8 pictures. That's how it arrived, because in the manual were 8 pictures with, well, 8 steps, for instance. So that's the starting point. And this is how that looks like if you click the editor. So you have your text, and if you have the ability and the rights to edit it here, which could be the place, unless you say, no, nobody edits here. That's typically something you have to do in SD4. That's, of course, also possible. But you here actually see that we distinct and copy that text. And we have text for screen. We have text for audio, for instance, text for subtitles. It can be the same, but you can also influence them for different reasons. And especially the text for audio, the voice-over text, sometimes you need to improve it, to make it more clear, or to make sure that your terminology is pronounced the right way in Japanese, for instance. Well, that goes too far for now, but that's something why it's a different field. And it's associated with those images, as you can see, just pictures in this case, and PNG. Now, if you now say, okay, I want to change it, I want to replace that image, you either go to a library with already existing fragments, somebody created them for you, and that's a typical workflow. So one of the things that you can do from that topic is that you turn it into a work order, a call sheet, a script, a storyboard, whatever you want to call it, and you hand it over to a video team or an animation team. And what do? They will create the fragments only. So they won't edit video. They will, for instance, make an animation on how to open the cover, or how to press the button, step 2, for instance. That's all. And they add those fragments to the system. So just drag and drop those little fragments in the system. But don't do any editing, because that's what the system will do later on. And you can do it, and of course reuse already stuff which is already existing in your media library. But what you can also do is this. So here I have a little video on how you can also film, for instance, with your iPhone. So you have that same editor here, and now I add pictures to a working list, and actually I'm creating now a work order. And with that work order, I will send that in a minute to somebody. Now, I think there are enough. So here you have work orders. Assign it to somebody, and that somebody can be, for instance, an installation engineer, maintenance engineer, somebody who really knows how to do this. And you send it actually over to his cell phone, to his iPhone. And as soon as that's done, you will switch to that in a bit, you will see what happened. So in a minute, you will see that iPhone pops up. We recorded this, of course. And this is what you see. So you have still these pictures, you have the text, you can get the audio for instruction. And when you take one of these steps and you say, okay, I'm going to replace this now with a piece of recording, you enter it, and you actually start using, well, in this case, just your camera of your iPhone, and you start filming it. And the timing on how long this fragment should be is something that we defined based on the audio, but also with some safety because of different languages. Well, you continue doing this, so you start filming a few of these fragments. Now, again, you get guided by the audio. I switched it off because otherwise I'm talking through it. And at the end of the day, you create, or one of your people creates videos this way. This is, of course, a very cheap way to create live action video. It's not always needed that some professional video team of an external supplier starts filming for you. That really depends on the audience. This is typically B2B content. And at the end of the day, you finish that working order. And what happens now is that all these fragments via that iPhone are sent back to that video creation cloud, but are also associated with these steps where first those pictures were. So it's actually replacing and connecting and adding the metadata to it. And then actually within the platform, you can actually start rendering and changing, and that will happen automatically. You see that the pictures are now getting replaced by the video fragments because it's parsing it. And assigning it, so it knows, okay, where to put what. And at that moment, we have your text still as loose components. We have those audio fragments based on the text as loose components. And we have these video files, these fragments as loose components. And now you push a button render, and the only thing that happens now is that everything is brought together and ends up as being that one video file, that one MP4 file. And that's what you see here. What you now also can do is either you export your other languages from ST4, from the same topic, with the same document ID, topic ID, and it will associate it automatically all these assets. So then you have also all the elements in Italian or in German or in Japanese or whatsoever. But what of course happens is as soon as you bring the German text-to-speech, the timing of that fragment will obviously be different than the English one or the Japanese one. But the system will adjust the fragments so it will align with the audio length. So everything will stay in sync. And we first create the localized fragments and then we stitch the localized fragments together to that localized title. But in the back, everything is still those loose components. And it's connected to your metadata in Schema ST4. So even if you now update that topic to version 1.1, with the same IDs, and you send it over again, the system recognizes everything. And maybe that sentence differed, so that audio length of version 1.1 of that fragment will differ. But it doesn't matter. Everything is still connected, so it will render your 1.1 version. So your video will be in sync with the topic in your CCMS and in your PDF, etc., etc. So you won't have those outdated videos. So that's actually what happened here. Well, this is that outcome, and here you have, it's a very simple format.
Install equalizer valve.
Synthesized voice.
Equipment before rebuilding.
Those fragments. It's a little wobbly. We give away such a gimbal
Mark
later
valve
on
manifold
better,
with position of M1 and M2 for reinstallation.
Now, this is of course what you get from
Loose
this
ball.
kind of video. But like I said, you can also send off the localized versions of that same topic to the system, and it will recognize each other and will be grouped in that same production associated with those same media assets. And that's also what you see happening here. There's also an Italian one, there is a German one. You could also say here, okay, I now translate it, so I connect this system to my translation management system to get it back in Japanese. That's of course also possible. And then you have, for instance, that Italian one. You have the Italian text, etc., and an Italian video.
Installare la valvola di equalizzazione. Attrezzatura prima della ricostruzione.
So that guy that filmed these fragments not only created it for himself, but he actually created for everybody worldwide, just by filming those few fragments associated with that topic from the technical documentation or training department. Now, what you saw was a live action way of creating video, either from reuse or based on an order and professional filming. And that's also what I thought, let's also bring some other samples, because video, well, you can also make picture-based video if you like. You don't film anything, you just use the pictures. Or you use animations, for instance. And let me show them, and then I'll tell a little bit about it.
Welcome to BAPAC Clip. This video covers the most important information about your medicine, so you will know what to do, what to expect, and what to watch out for.
Play it for a few seconds.
Your medicine is called paracetamol. Your doctor has prescribed this medicine because you have pain or a fever. Paracetamol.
What happens here is that also a structured content file is actually helping to even generate the visuals here. There's a lot about AI these days. Well, it's not that this platform does everything automatically, but things like text-to-speech, but also this kind of stuff, of course, links a bit more to AI. What happens here is that a customer of us takes the leaflets of medicine, paracetamol in this case, and turns it into a personalized animation for you. So you are a persona, a male, young male, you get paracetamol against a fever or a headache, you get it in the form of a pill or an injection, and that all relates to what kind of script at the end of the day ends up being your video. So it will render, of course, automatically all kinds of fragments, and the contraindications for getting an injection or possible contraindications for getting that pill, for instance, or the information that you need to give to a female or a male. All these fragments are in the system, but based on you, the right fragments are set in the right order and rendered into that MP4 for you in the brand that you want to present it into. In Germany, it's called the Beipackclip. I think they are now actually bringing it to market here in Germany. And what I switched off the audio is I added different languages, because what they also do is they bring this content in, I think, Arabic, Turkish, English, and German in the German market, for instance. So at the end of the day, you end up with a tremendous amount of videos based on even more video fragments, but now you can handle it because it's become all metadata. You don't have to edit this manually anymore. Even with updates, you only update fragments and then the system stitches the new titles automatically. So that's generating animations. And this is actually a actual customer, Philips, end-user materials, but end-user materials that are based and presented by customer support in this case. What we did at Philips, you have the manual, and you also have a marketing department and, of course, a customer support department. And what we found out together working with them is certain topics from that manual are actually purposed by the marketing department. It's more before the acquisition, before you buy this product, you already want to know its features. So there, the topics are actually co-financed with marketing. And the other side, after the unboxing topics, more the customer support topics, we of course more work together, tech docs and customer support. And this is one of the samples of the customer support videos. Let me play it.
Entkalken des Wasserbehälters. Babynahrungszubereiter SCF 870. Kalkablagerungen sind braune oder weiße Ablagerungen aus dem Wasser.
On the left you see actually animation fragments created by a supplier of Philips. They make these short pieces of animation. And you listened, of course, to the text that was also shown on screen. It's in this case the same text. A very simple format, and actually also done in a way that most of these fragments can be used for multiple products. They have a range of these products, and of course one has feature A and B and the other A, B and C, etc. So that way you can of course change the videos and repurpose the fragments. And also good to see is in the fragments itself there is no language. Sometimes you get things like this, like hours and minutes or centimeters or millimeters, and then of course you can say, okay, this is already localized, because sometimes you don't need to use the millimeter or the liters. Even that you can, of course, make dynamic based with metadata. But as soon as you don't put any language in these fragments, you can, of course, leverage the language from your CCMS beautifully and repurpose all these fragments. So you can, well, it's, of course, cheaper to create it that way. So that's the process of creating this is actually the same as what I showed you before with the filmed fragments, because it doesn't matter if you use an animated fragment or a filmed fragment, of course. So that's another sample. And last but not least, Van der Lande, B2B content.
This animation will guide you through the installation of the Ito Denki drum motor and slave rollers. The first drum motor should be installed at distance x2.
CAD files. Some zooms, a little bit of animation sometimes.
Place 2 poly V belts on the drum motor.
quite technical.
Mount the drum motor into the frame. Slide the cable through the channel.
But also here, it's a lot of reuse. These topics are actually used for projects, so it's project content from Van der Lande in multiple languages to help teams, putting together factories, installations, etc. for their clients. And what they noticed is that a lot of the books, the translation of all that paperwork, etc., it was actually handier to give people some tablets and also localize the content, because the people came from everywhere, right? Working together with all these different languages. And what they noticed is that quite a lot of mistakes were made because people didn't understand. They got everything in English, but maybe it was handy also to give it in Polish, etc., etc. So that's what they started to do. And they just made some kind of portal on a tablet accessible for their co-workers to do this. This was actually content for putting together an Amazon factory somewhere in Europe. So that's hopefully a little bit of inspiration on what you can do with 100% repurposing your technical documentation. Of course, it sounds simple, and it is often quite simple. It helps at least a lot. But there are, of course, also some things we see, that needs improvement. So one of the typical things you see when you take content that is written for print and you bring it to video is that if you take that text to speech, it is quite directive. And do this, do that, etc. It sounds a little bit like your mother when you were a teenager and had to clean your room, right? So you had to rewrite it. Well, AI kicks in these days, so it's not that hard to automatically rewrite, if you like, to make it a little bit more conversational. So you will definitely bump into this. But everything depends, of course, on the audience that you need to address. If it's really high-end B2C content together with marketing, or it is more the maintenance stuff in the B2B space, maintenance in the factory, for instance. So hopefully I gave you a little bit of an overview of the possibilities. And luckily we still do have some time. And if you have some response or questions, feel free to raise your hand.